And guys, this is going to be the respective agenda for today's session. So let's proceed further. So everyone, uh, this is the first question. Everyone, please go through it, right? And please go through all the options. Just a thing, I just want to enter it up before you reply your respective answer. Please listen it up. Then I will give you the enough time. In the AWS, always remember that you have to not find the correct answer. You have to find the most appropriate answer. Correct? Okay. So, and this is applies the same logic applies in the interview part as well. Whenever you are just setting it up in place, and when the interviewer is giving you the different options, listen to all the options, because what can happen up in place is that you can be in a situation where a question can contain two correct answers, right? And you have to select one. So now how would you react to that? How would you approach that particular question? So keep this thing in mind. When it comes to the AWS, your job is that you will not look for the correct answer. You will look for the most appropriate answer out of the following. Okay, that's what we're going to do it up in place. Okay, so just keep that particular pointer in mind. Okay guys, please go ahead. This is a question one, and these are respective your options. Please go ahead. So first of all, let's read what the question is saying it up in place. Then I will be, will be learning about. The question says that a company collects data for temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure in cities. Okay, so it's collecting information about the. Just a minute. Okay, fine. So temperature, humidity, and the atmosphere pressure, right, in a city up in place. Okay, across multiple continents. Fine. The average volume of data that the company collects from each site daily is 500 GB. Okay. Each site has a high-speed internet connection. The company wants to aggregate the data from all these global sites and as quickly as possible in a single Amazon S3 bucket. Fine. So it's kind of saying that there should be an S3 single place where from all the different places the data should be pushed up to this respective bucket. That's what it is looking for. Okay, the solution must minimize operational complexity. Very important that the solution must minimize operation complexity, means make it simple. Okay, that's great. It does not want you to overdo it. Okay, which solution meet the respective requirement? The first one, it says that turn on AWS transfer accelerator on destination S3 bucket. Use multi-part upload to directly upload site data to the destination up in place. Okay, this looks good, right? So this can be the respective answer. So now in this respective case, you have here something which is called by the name of S3 transfer accelerator. So S3 transfer accelerator is what? It's kind of a service we have into the AWS, which is what it does, so that it uses up your respective edge location to quickly upload up the respective data, even if it is, very far away in place, right? So this is could be thing in place, right? Transfer accelerator. It's quickly upload something into the system, right? And using up the health of the edge location. Okay, so this could be the answer. That's the reason I'm just kind of putting up a mark into it. Okay, let's explore the other options, because that's the best practice whenever you're just dealing with the AWS or any other cloud you can think about. Okay, the second question says that upload the data from each site in an S3 bucket in the closest region. Use S3 region application. Again, man, this will add additional costs into it up in place. You're creating multiple buckets into it, and then you're eventually going to the respect central one. So not the one. Okay, schedule AWS snowball edge storage optimize. The snowball devices, what that is, it's like a massive gigantic pen drive you can think about. Okay, so it is mostly used for your offline transfer. Let's suppose, for example, I have in my laptop 5 TB of data. Okay, 5 TB. It's a humongous data. and now I want to transfer that 5 TB of data to a particular location. Correct? One way is through the internet, right? We all use the internet, even if this session is possible through the internet, right? So in that particular situation, what actually happens up? I upload it to the respective server. Now it will take a time, depending upon the bandwidth, depending upon the internet speed. It will take a time. You can think about like it's 5 TB, so it's a huge amount of data. So it can take, let's suppose, for example, an hour. Even if the internet connection is pretty good, it will take an hour. But let's suppose I want to immediately send up in place. So what we can do is that we can have this AWS snowball edge device, like a big gigantic pen drive. You just attach it to a respective laptop, copy the data into it or move the data into it, then take it up with you, right, in a bag or in a capsule, in a car, vehicle, anything. Go it up there into the particular system or the server, attach there, and just paste it there. Simple as it is. Like you can just imagine it like a big massive pen drive you have in place. So this is a really good interesting device, but the problem here is that this is mostly used for your offline stuff. Okay, correct. So this is what we have in this respective case. The like a massive pen drive you can think about. Fine, this is the case. And so this is not going to be the one in this respective part, because you are kind of doing what? You have a centralized system, and let's suppose this is North Virginia, this is Mumbai, this is any other region 1, region 2 you have in place. From all the region you're collecting up the data. It's not practically possible to send this pen drive every single day from North Virginia to, let's suppose, India, right? It will take 24 hours, and it will be costly. Again, it will bring the cost. So this is not going to be the question. Okay, upload the data from each site to Amazon EC2 instance in the closest region. Okay, store the data in Amazon EBS volume at a regular interval. Take the EBS snapshot and copy to the region that contains the destination up in place, right? Okay, this is really good as well. Fine, no issue with that. EBS can also be the one, but here is first thing is that it will overcomplicate the thing. And now here is a big problem. You need to kind of understand the difference you have between these two things. The difference between EBS, Elastic Block Store, and your respective S3. Fine. I can use both of them to store the data. No issue with that. But the problem with the EBS is that, man, when you have ever created up an EBS, in that particular case, you have already need to define the your how much you want to store it up in place. Let's suppose, for example, you say that I want to store 50 GB into it. So you will already, before even pushing any data, you will first of all define that. And that is the biggest problem with the EBS. Let's suppose, for example, right now on 20th of May, right, in my respective you know location, right now my requirement is 50 GB. I go to the AWS and create an EBS of 50 GB. Fine. Let's suppose after an hour my manager calls me up in place and say that, Amit, you know what, that 50 GB you have in place, man, now I'm just giving you more data, just push it there. How would I do that? 50, it's already full. I just thought that I have 50 GB of data, I will throw it to the EBS and already have defined the limit. I cannot exceed that, and a lot of problems are there with changing the size of the EBS part. Okay, if you have played with that, a lot of problems are there. You can increase the size only one single time, you can never decrease the size. So a lot of problems you have in place. So instead of making this complexity, because here it says that minimum operation complexity, right? Okay, so now my manager gives me an additional 30 GB of it. For that also I have to create another EBS. So you see that new data is coming up, the EBS, I need to create up more and more EBS. So instead of that, what is the best option I have in place is that go to the S3. Okay, use the S3. Correct. So guys, tell me, when I'm using up the S3, in the S3, do you ever define like how much of a storage you want? Do you ever define that in the S3? Like in the S3 we create a bucket, right? So I just create a bucket. In the bucket, when you're putting it up, do you ever define that how much of a data you will be putting it up today or in the coming days into the respective bucket? No, right? There is no upfront storage if you define there. So it means that it is flexible. In this particular bucket I have created, I can store 5 GB, and tomorrow morning I can go from 5 GB to 5 TB, right? I can expand that definitely, for sure there will be cost for that, right? But you got it. So definitely S3 would be the much more simpler version, and S3 has one of the feature which is transfer accelerator to quickly send up the respective data place. So using it up, you will quickly able to upload the data into the S3 button place, right? That's called S3 transfer accelerator, right? And it uses CloudFront in background, the edge location up in place, right? To accelerate your upload over a long distance to the Amazon S3. That's what it is called. Okay, so the answer is going to be the first one, right? Okay, perfect, guys. Now let's move to the next question. The question says that to understand this respective question, guys, there is a topic you need to talk about. You need to understand up in place. Okay, I will tell you about that. If you have not read about it, don't worry with it. I will be explaining to you. Okay, so everyone, back to the screen. Okay, an application run on an Amazon EC2 instance in a VPC. Okay, guys, what is a VPC is? Can anyone explain me that? What is a VPC is? So that we are all at the same level, right? If there anyone who is not having any sort of a clarity with the VPC part, super important concept. Is it clear, guys? Everyone, like what it is, what it does really. VPC an isolated system, guys. Okay, it is an isolated system you have in place, correct? Fine, and which is completely cut from the rest of the world up in place. It's completely up to you to just whether allow it to communicate to the outside world or just to be keep it in an isolated pod. Okay, so now an instance is there, a respective server you have in place. I would say this is my server, right? I'm just naming it in server instance. Same thing inside a VPC. Let's suppose, for example, I would say that, man, this is my respective VPC, which is in green, correct? Okay, the application process logs that are stored in an Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, so wait a minute, let me just change the name of it. Just a minute, guys. Okay, my bad. Okay, let me just put up here. So here we have this instance. This is my instance, and this instance is there. It is present inside your respective uh, VPC. Okay, fine. And application process logs that are stored in the S3 bucket up in place, right? The instance need to access the S3 bucket without connectivity to the internet. Means that this instance, the EC2 instance, need to connect to an S3 bucket. So here you have an S3 bucket. Fine. Okay, you want to connect to it, but without needing to connect through the internet. So what is an option you have? Which solution provide the private network connectivity between your respective instance, right, between your server and your respective S3? What that does? Okay, correct. So this and remember, this is private. When I say private network, it means that this traffic, this packet which is going from the server to the S3 and going from S3 to this respective server, it is not leaving the AWS infrastructure. Got the point with it? Okay, so this packet is not leaving AWS, right? So it means you cannot spoof it, you cannot capture it. Fine, you cannot analyze it, or you cannot perform the sniffing line, those kind of things into it. Fine. Okay, it never leaves the AWS. That's what we're trying to set up in place. Okay, so create a gateway VPC endpoint to the respective S3 bucket. Okay, this looks good, right? There is a concept we have in place which is called VPC endpoint. What it does is that in that respective case, you create the VPC endpoint somewhere down the line here in the VPC. Okay, and that establish a private connection with the respective S3. Definitely you have to do a little bit of a configuration into it, but just keep this thing in mind. VPC endpoint provides the private connection to the respective S3, right? like in this respective case. So this could be the respective answer. But as I mentioned to you, don't stick with the one option, just reading it out. Explore the others as well. The other says stream the logs to Amazon CloudWatch logs, export the log to the S3 bucket. It doesn't make a sense at all. CloudWatch is a different service. I just only want my respective logs from the server to go to the S3 and vice versa up in place. So this is not the case. Okay. Create an instance profile. So guys, what is an instance profile is? And this is also correct, right? I would say, but what is an actually instance profile is? Instance profile means the IAM role you have here. Okay. So in the C, it's saying that you create a role. It means you have your respective uh, instance, right? It wants to communicate, so it will have a respective role. This is your role, and through the role, you will be able to communicate with the respective S3. So it is absolutely possible. So no issue with that. So that's an option, also an option. I'm just putting it up here. Okay. Then it says that in this respective part, it says create an Amazon API gateway, right? API gateway API with a private link to access the S3 up in place, right? API gateway is a completely different concept you have in place, okay? Which is there for different use cases, I would say that. Okay, if we proceed further, that I will be telling you up. It has nothing to do with the data transfer, okay? That's the thing. So this is also not the one. So we have a tie between A and C. Now, so this is C option and this is your respective A option. Now, if you look into the question, it says that categorically private connection. Private connection means that the server and the S3 is communicating. The traffic or the packet are not going outside of the AWS. Okay. So in the C part, when you're using up the IAM role, definitely for sure your traffic is going outside and then coming to the respective S3. It means that a hacker could be there which can capture your respective packets up in place, which can be a little bit problematic. Fine. So much more proper version is A. Fine. So in A, what we do is we have a respective server, or I would say an instance, right? This is the instance present in a VPC. Okay. The VPC has one of the features to create your respective endpoint, and that endpoint create a secure tunnel to your respective S3, right? And this traffic, man, this traffic is present inside the AWS only. Okay, this is the AWS infrastructure. This is AWS infrastructure, infra. The traffic never leaves the respective AWS infrastructure. So it means that hackers are also not able to sniff what is going on into this communication. Fine, they are left behind. So it's happening inside the AWS, correct? Okay, but when you use the IAM role in that particular case, what you're doing is the EC to this respective server using up the VPC and internet gateway is able to leave the VPC and then come in and put up in place. So see, it is leaving it. That doesn't make it private. Fine, that makes it public. So that's a big thing we have here. Got the point? That why A is the correct one in place. So always remember VPC endpoint create a secure connection with your respective S3 privately, right? And this communication is very, very private. It never goes outside of your AWS infrastructure. It's like thing you can think about when you want to go from your one room to another room in your house or in the apartment. So how do you do that? You just go through it kind of a door up in place, right? That exact door is the VPC endpoint without actually leaving your house. You want to go from your kitchen to your bedroom or from your bedroom to, let's suppose, for example, your dining room, right? That's the thing. Perfect, everyone. So the correct answer is your respective A. Okay. So keep this thing in mind. You can just note it down. Whenever it comes talking about VPC endpoint, means it is talking about secure private connection. Always. That is a characteristic property of it, right? That's the one. So guys, this is the third question, everyone. Please go through it. Okay, guys. So let's see what the question is trying to say in this respective case. Okay. So first of all, I just, as I mentioned to you, that understand the question first and then jump into the respective, the options we have in place. Okay. So I hope the question part is clear with everyone. Okay. And here we have four different options and four different concepts, I would say that. And it's a very interesting question. So let's see that, right? What's actually going on in this case? The question says that a company recently migrated to the AWS, okay, and want to implement a solution to protect the traffic that flows in and out of the production VPC. Very, very important thing. So through a through a diagram, I just want to explain to you what's actually happening with the question part. What is technically is trying to say in this respective case is that it says want to implement a solution. Let me just a minute, man. Okay. Implement a solution to protect the traffic that flows in and out of the production VPC. So it means that you have a respective VPC, correct? This is your respective VPC you can think about. And what you need to do is that you need to protect the traffic that flows in and out, means the traffic that is coming to the respective VPC and the traffic that is going out of the VPC. I hope till here it's clear with everyone. Fine. Okay. The company had an inspection server and it's on the on-prem data center up in place. Okay, so there is an inspection server up in place in the on premises. Fine. Okay, the inspection servers perform specific operations such as traffic flow inspection and traffic filtering, right? The company wants to have the same functionality in the AWS cloud. So what it's trying to say is that in this respective case, see, in the on-prem, in their respective other infrastructure, they have a respective server in their on-prem. Okay, and that is an inspection server up in place in the on-premises. It means that if in the on-premises they have this server 1 and server 2, so before the traffic reaches to the server 1 and server 2, it goes to this inspection server and then goes to the server 1 and server 2. Same kind of setup they want into the AWS part as well, man. So how it is possible up that in the AWS part, that when a traffic comes into the VPC or leaves the VPC, in that respective part, what is actually happening it up is that traffic inspection is taking place. You are scrutinizing the traffic, that from where you're originating, from where you're coming, what's your IP address, this and that. Fine. So this is what it's trying to say in this respective case. Okay. Yes, Priya. Now correct. Okay, perfect. So but let's explore the other options. Okay. So we have in place which solution meet the respective requirement. Let's explore that. Fine. Okay. Now I just think that just reading it out, you get a sense that what is the option is. Okay. Perfect. Okay. The first option is that Amazon Guard Duty. Fine. Okay. Even if the concept we are talking right now is a VPC, but the guard duty, just touching the concept of the guard duty is also very interesting, guys. So the first option says that use Amazon Guard Duty for traffic inspection and traffic filtering in the production of the VPC. Okay. Uh, I would say that that is not the case. Okay. Guard duty never perform this kind of things up in place. It does not filter your respective traffic or inspect your inflows or ingress or egress. Okay, that's the thing. What is a guard duty, guys? What do you say? How would you like to define up a guard duty? There is a one liner we have, right? You does not need to write an entire definition for that. There is a one single one liner you can use it up. Monitoring, I would not say a monitoring. Yeah, monitoring would be done mostly when it comes to the monitoring in the AWS. Cloud Trade, CloudWatch, Config would be the one would be going for the monitoring part. I would say that guard duty is similar to your respective antivirus. Okay, so you will say that okay, Amit, antivirus, but how come? Antivirus, it finds threats right in your system and then definitely for sure give you the recommendation what should you steps you should take, what kind of steps you should not take, those kind of things you have in place, correct? Okay, deletes the file, give you a recommendation, those things. Guard duty perform man the same sort of an operations. Okay, it is there to detect threats and any anomalies you have in place in the system. Okay, for the alert part, definitely you have to do or configure up an SNS or event bridge, I would say that, right? But definitely the guard duty scans your entire systems and tell you that whether your server is compromised or not based upon the signature, right? Okay. So this is not the one, right? Okay, traffic mirroring up in place. There's a kind also concept we have into the traffic mirroring of the AWS part. So this is not the one as well. Traffic mirroring is just for the analysis. Like you can imagine it up. Traffic mirroring is all about your IDS, intrusion detection system. Okay, IDS, intrusion detection system, is a system which just gives you an alert that Amit, something is suspicious into the infrastructure, a packet that has entered into the network in your network up in place, and that is suspicious. The signature it has, it matches the signature of the infected files. That's it, man. It will only give you the alerts. That's it. No protection, right? That's it. So the traffic mirroring is similar kind of a concept you have in place. What you do is that, see, this is the thing, is you have your respective server, okay, critical server, and you have your client. So client is going to the respective server, this packet is there, this replica of the packet will also go to another server. This would be a server too. Okay, so this is called traffic mirroring. So all the monitoring of logs and everything, you will be doing it up in this respective server too. That's called traffic mirroring. So you're literally mirroring, duplicating your respective packet. One original packet is going to the server, correct? The duplicate of it is going to your SOC team. Then they're going to investigate into it up in place, right? If something really goes wrong, right? Okay. So traffic mirroring is not the one. Then it first comes into the respective case, guys. The another option is network firewall manager. Okay, used to create required rules for traffic infection and traffic filtering for the production VPC. Yes, absolutely. Network filtering, man, is a kind of firewall, because in the AWS we have multiple different kind of firewalls. Network firewall is one of them. So network firewall is the firewall which protects at the entire VPC level. Okay, so you can configure it at the entire VPC level. That's what we have in the respective AWS network firewall. Correct? Okay. Can you tell me that, let's suppose, for example, if I, let's suppose, want to control the traffic at a subnet level, what is an option I have in that respective case? It means I want to control the traffic that is coming in or going out at the subnet level. I hope everyone is aware about that, that in the VPC we have subnets, right? So that subnet is there. So if I just want to control the traffic, ingress, outgress, right, those kind of things up in place, or I want to block traffic from a suspective source, something like that, I want to define it up in place. So where I can do it? It's called NAT. Sorry, it's called your NACL, Network Access Control List. Okay, that's the thing. So, but remember, keep in mind, when you want to perform this kind of an operation, that you want to define a rule that, okay, if the traffic comes from, you know, 0 point, or let's suppose there's an IP 192.168, whatever the IP is, it's malicious IP. It should not come to my respective VPC. What you do is that you create a respective, I would say, network firewall. So let me just erase everything and let me show it to you from scratch. So this is your that VPC. Okay, that is kind of enclosed, or is being enclosed by your respective. This one is your network firewall. You have to create a respective rule. So this is your network firewall, right? And in this respectively, you defined up in place that block this, allow this, whatever it is. And then it comes to when the traffic is coming to the VPC, first it will hit the network firewall. The rules will be checked that whatever the traffic that is coming up in place, is it fulfilling all the requirement of the rules that are defined in the network firewall? If yes, then it will be able to communicate with the VPC. Okay, so it protects, you are defining the rule here for the entire VPC. Okay, at the subnet level, right, you have network access control list, there you define the rules for the entire subnet. Okay, and then there is another thing we have in place, another kind of a virtual firewall you can think about, which is called by the name of, guys, security group. So we have a security group that is a firewall at the respective instance level. Okay, great. So firewall is the one you have in place. Okay, perfect. But let's explore the other option. What is this firewall manager is then? Firewall manager never protects you from any kind of attack, or it's not analyzing any traffic that is coming to a respective VPC, right? Like network firewall is definitely for sure going to scrutinize every traffic that comes to the VPC. Okay, but network firewall manager, sorry, AWS firewall manager does not do that. AWS firewall manager does not give you any kind of protection. This name in itself is confusing. Net AWS Firewall Manager is a centralized place to manage your multiple firewalls. Okay, especially it is used in the context of WAF. So you have multiple WAFs, web application firewalls, and all of them you want to manage them, right? You have a centralized place which is called AWS Firewall Manager. So I go to the AWS Firewall Manager. There I define the rule that okay, if the packet comes from this IP, the source IP is 192.168.188, etc., etc., correct? Block it. So once I define it in the firewall manager, it will automatically will be implemented to all the WAF that is attached up in place. It means this is my one WAF you can think about. Okay, this is another, this is another, this is another, and all of them are connected to a centralized one which is called by the name of firewall manager. So in the so I would, instead of going to each and every this particular firewall, I will be going to the firewall manager, define the rule there, rule 1, rule 2, block this, allow this, whatever it is, and it will be implemented in all of them. Okay, so technically firewall manager in itself does not do anything. It makes your life much more easier, please, right? Yes, Isman, you can see that it simplifies the security. It makes your management much more easier. Instead of, let's suppose, because in the organization, trust me, in the production environment, you will not have only 3 or 4 server man, 3 or 4 WAF firewalls. You will have a lot of them. Let's suppose 100. And let's suppose, for example, you want to create or implement a rule into it. So, so it's not it's a very foolish idea, right? So to go to in each and every server and then implement the rule, correct? What's the best practice? Best practice is that go to the firewall manager, then the firewall manager define the rule and it automatically implements to all of them. Okay, implement to all of them, or you can just there are multiple rules to that. I would say that you can categorize the firewalls as well in different groups, correct? And then based upon that, you can attach the particular policy. But that's a different concept. So you get the point. The firewall manager is kind of a centralized place. Okay. So the correct answer, everyone, is going to be your respective AWS network firewall. I hope this is super clear with you guys. Now, guys, let's move to the next question. This is the next question, everyone. Please go through it. Network firewall is there to protect your respective entire VPC. Firewall manager is a centralized place to manage multiple different firewalls up in place. Okay, you have 100 firewalls. You want to control and configure them. Instead of going to one by one to all of them, what do? You go to the firewall manager, and through that you are able to manage all of them. Okay, that's the one. Okay, guys, just a minute more. Fine, then we'll talk about it. To understand, to just give a answer to this particular question, you should have an understanding of what an role is all about. IAM role. Okay. So can anyone explain to me or write it down what is actually an IAM role is all about? Because if you understand an IAM role, you understand this respective question. It will just a piece of cake for you, right? So what do you say? What is actually an IAM role is all about, guys? So IAM role is what it does is that I would just kind of show it, explain to you in a nutshell what the IAM role really does is uh, it allows, or I would say that if there is no IAM role, what's going to happen up? You have an EC2, okay, and that wants to communicate with the respective S3. So what do you say that is it possible that can my EC2 communicate with my respective S3 without any password or any kind of a credentials? The answer is by default is no, it cannot, right? Because this is a kind of a rule we have into the AWS that by default, guys, two services cannot communicate with each other. It could be any services, just keep this thing in mind, you can write it down. Two services in the AWS cannot communicate with each other, whether it's EC to the S3 or Lambda to CloudWatch, CloudTrail to config, or whatsoever it is. Two services cannot communicate with each other by default. If they want to, they need to have something which is called by the name of the respective IAM role, right? I just mentioned up here, you need to have something which is called the respective role here to allow the communication. Correct? Okay, let's see the question. The question says that a company is implementing a new business application. The application runs on two Amazon EC2 instance and use S3 bucket to document the storage. Okay, a solution architect needs to ensure that the EC2 instance can access the respective S3 bucket. Fine. Okay. Architect needs to ensure that the EC2 instance can access the respective bucket applications. What should the solution architect meet the respective requirement? IAM role that grant access to the S3 bucket, okay, and attach the role to the EC2 instance. Okay, this could be the answer. Fine, right? Create an IAM policy that grants the access to the respective S3 bucket. Okay, attach the policy to the respective EC2 instance. This is not going to work up in place because still you need an IAM role. Policy is there to control the access, but if there is no bridge, let's suppose for example, if I just go by the second rule and I would say that, just a minute, I would say in my particular case EC2 is there, okay, and this is S3, and in the EC2 it's saying that I attach a particular policy to allow this, allow that, whatever it is. So I have attached a particular policy here. Will the communication will take place, man? No, it will not. You need to have this bridge between in place. Policy is there to fine tune the respective control, correct? So definitely attach a policy to the respective instance. No, there is no mentioning of the IAM role into it, right? Okay, so this is, so here it will not possible up in place. Okay, create an IAM group that grants access to the respective S3 bucket. No, absolutely not. IAM group is different concepts, right? IAM users are there. Okay, fine. And in the group part, definitely you can attach a particular policy that have an access to the S3 bucket. That's the one. Attach the group, this respective group, to the respective EC2 instance up in place. This is not going to be the case. Okay, fine. So this is absolutely wrong statement completely. Create an IAM user that grant access to the respective S3 bucket. Attach the user account to the respective EC2 instance up in place. Again, it will overcomplicate this respective thing. Fine. So we don't want that. What we do is the first option is pretty straightforward. You have an EC2, okay, and you go and create an IAM role and S3. When you're creating up an IAM role, there is a term you will be seeing it up, which is called trusted entity. So let me just write it down for you guys. When you're defining this respective role, what is a role is? Again, EC2 communicating with S3, okay, securely. That is what an IAM role does, the communication. And it could be any service you can think about, fine. So in the role part, there are two important components you have in place, guys. First is trusted entity, okay, trusted entity you have in place. Okay, another one is your respective policy. Trusted entity means to whom you are attaching this respective policy. In this respective case, you say that need to ensure that the EC2 instance can access the bucket. My means EC2 instance wants to access the respective S3 bucket. Fine. So who is going to be the trusted entity? EC2. Correct. So it means the role will be attached to the respective EC2. Then here you have the policy. So you have your respective EC2. Correct. It is first of all attached to a respective role, and through that it is able to access your respective S3. Okay, now here is a very interesting into it up in place that this will still not work if the EC2 goes there and try to run any command into the S3 or put or create a bucket, it will not run, because you have to then define a policy as well here in place. Okay, like policy of S3 full access, right? So this is what we have. So this respective case, guys, the correct answer is going to be your first, right? I hope it's clear with everyone. Now, guys, this is the fifth question, everyone. Pretty straightforward, simple. Please go through it, everyone. Okay, guys, so let's see what the question says. The question says that a solution architect is using Amazon S3 to design the storage architecture of a new digital media application. Okay, the media file must be resilient to the loss of an availability zone. Some files are accessed frequently, while other files are rarely accessed. This is a very important term, guys. Okay, so access frequently while others are rarely accessed up in place, right, in an unpredictable manner. The solution architect must minimize the cost of storing this respective retrieve file up in place. Which storage need is there? S3 standard, I would say, definitely for sure, you know, is not going to be the respective case into it. Okay, so here we have it in place. So it says that it is providing here, rarely accessed up. So some files are accessed frequently by others are rarely accessed it in this respective part. So it is an unpredictable pattern you are seeing it up. The solution architect must minimize the cost of storing and retrieving the respective file up in place in this respective part. Okay, so here by itself what's going to do in this respective case is that S3 standard is there. Okay, that's the what. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay, so we have this unpredictable pattern up in place, right? So which option meet the respective requirement? Is the SD standard? No. Intelligent tiering we have in place? I would say no, right? One infrequent access in the S3 standard IA, yes. One zone IA means that you have a respective replication but in one zone only, right? So that's not mentioned to the respective one in place. Okay, and see here it is. It says that media file must be resilient to the loss of one availability zone. In one zone IA, you have into one only availability zone. If that goes down, you go lose a file. So that's the reason this is not going to be the one as well. The only option we are left with is something which is called by the name of infrequent access. Got it? Infrequent access because it is infrequently accessed up in place. And S3 standard IA means that because it wants to make sure that even if the one AZ goes down, you're still having our respective files up in place. Okay, that's the case. So this is what the respective question answer is. Okay. Now, everyone, this is the next question. Everyone, please go through it. Okay, everyone. So let's see what the question says. A company is storing backup files by using Amazon S3 standard storage. Okay. The file are accessed frequently for 1 month. Good. However, the files are not accessed after 1 month. Okay. The company must keep the files indefinitely. It means for a longer duration of time. Right. So this is a situation we have in place. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of good correct answers as well. Very good, guys. Which storage solution meet the respective requirement most effectively? So here we have an option: configure S3 intelligent tiering to automatically migrate the object. No, I would not say that. Fine. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transfer the object from S3 standard, which was for a month. Okay. Then to S3 Glacier deep archive after a month. Okay. This can be right, because as far as when like for a month you want to have an access to it, you use S3 standard one place, and after that, let's suppose for example you just want to store indefinitely for a long duration of time. In that particular case, deep archive is a much more better option because it's much cheaper if you want to store the data for a longer duration of time. Create a lifecycle configuration to transfer it from S3 standard to the infrequent access after a month. I would say that no, infrequent would not be the one. If I have a choice between infrequent and the deep archive and the data I want to store for long duration of time, I will choose the deep archive, right? Okay, that's the thing. Because it says indefinitely, you want to store it up in place. Okay. Create an S3 lifecycle configuration to transit the object from S3 standard to the one zone archive. Same thing. You're just putting it up in the one zone only, not the one. So I will say the much more better option is the B one you have in place. Okay. So let's see. And this is the correct answer. Fine. Very good, guys. So guys, this is the next question. Please go through it, everyone. Here it says that in the question, a company needs to review its AWS cloud deployment to ensure that its Amazon S3 bucket do not have unauthorized configuration changes. Okay, it does not have any sort of an unauthorized configuration changes up in place. Okay, so like unauthorized means that so someone has tried to make changes into it up in place, so that should not be there, right? So what solution architect how do he should be able to achieve it up in this respective case? Fine. So AWS config is there. So I would say that this is the good option. AWS config gives us two capabilities. One is that we can perform some sort of a compliance here. Let's suppose I have 100 security group, a virtual firewall, and I just want to make sure that how many out of that 100 security group, how many of them technically is having RDP enabled into it. So what I will do, I will create a rule and let the config scan all of my 100 security group, and it will give me the result that which are the security group which are having RDP and which are the ones which do not have the respective RDP. Okay, this is the one you have. Okay, so config looks good into it because you're looking for unauthorized changes, and config has another big property, good great property, is that you can look into the changes that has been made to the respective resources using up a particular feature which is called timeline. So I can go to the timeline and I can say that okay, this is a respective security group, and what are the changes that has taken place with this respective security group over the course period of time. That's what we have in place, right? So this is what we have in this respective part. Fine. So this is the thing. Okay. So this could be the answer. Let's explore the other option as well. Trusted advisor. Trusted advisor, guys, just keep this thing in mind. It's a service we have into the AWS which just gives the best practice. It gives us the recommendation. Okay, let's suppose, for example, like opening up of a FTP port, which is not secure, is not a great idea. If I have opened it anywhere down the line, it will give me a recommendation that Amit, you have a one respective security group, and that is in North Virginia, and that respective group here you have FTP you have enabled up in place, which is not a best practice. So it will give me an error. It is not going to resolve that particular issue. It is just has some best practices, okay, to secure your systems and all kind of stuff. Using it, it scan the entire AWS and give me the best recommendation. What kind of an actions I can take in an order to make sure to make my respective infrastructure more and more secure. So that's what a trusted advisor does. Just giving you advice, okay, the best recommendation. Just looking into the, it scans the system and then give you the recommendation. What should be the best option for you? Turn on Amazon Inspector. Amazon Inspector is for vulnerability management. To find out any kind of a vulnerability you have in place, that's what we have the inspector for that. Fine. Okay, perfect. And then you have this one which is called turn on Amazon S3 server access logging. This is to just track the access request, not to look for unauthorized configuration changes. So I, let's suppose, for example, if this is my respective S3 bucket, I can see that who made a connection to it. Okay, access request, I can look into that in place, right? Okay, but I just want to look for configuration changes. That still is the config which will be providing me through the feature which is called timeline, where I can see literally that what are the changes that has taken place. So the correct answer is going to be a config one. Now guys, this is the next question, everyone, please look into it. So here it says that the company host is multi-tier application on AWS. For compliance, governance, auditing, and security, the company must track configuration changes on its AWS resources and record a history of API calls. Okay, what you're trying to say is to record a history of API call made to these respective resources. Fine. Okay. So what should solution architect do in this respective case? CloudTrail to track configuration changes in its respective part, and AWS config to record the API calls. No, it's kind of complete opposite. AWS config to track configuration changes, as I mentioned to you that in the previous question, and CloudTrail to record the API calls. Okay, this look good. AWS config to track configuration changes and CloudWatch to record API call. No. What does the CloudWatch really does, guys? What do you say? CloudWatch tells you up in place that how well your respective server is performing it up. Okay, based upon CPU, based upon RAM, those kind of things you have in place, right? Okay, so this is not the one as well. Again, CloudWatch does not mention API call. That's the thing of the CloudTrail. And use CloudTrail to track configuration changes. Again, absolutely wrong. CloudTrail does not, tracks your configuration changes, and the CloudWatch record absolutely wrong. So the correct answer is, guys, going to be respective B you have here. Okay. if you open up your task manager, you get an information that a graphical manner, that how much is your CPU utilization you're having up in place, how much is the RAM is there, how much is this and that. Fine. Same thing you can, if you want to look for how much is CPU utilization, how much is the RAM, how much is the processing, how things are going off into it, you can get it through the cloud watch. Okay. But from the perspective of activity, let's suppose Amit logged into the respective server, right? Deleted the server. Those activities will be logged by CloudTrail. So any interaction that you do that is managed by CloudTrail, right? API activity, okay? CloudWatch just tell you up in place that how well that particular server, how healthy that server is up in place, how good the CPU is working, how good the RAM is working up in place. That's the thing. Okay. So the correct answer, guys, is going to be your respective D. Now, guys, this is the next question. Everyone, please go through it. Now, here, let's read the question. The question says that a company is preparing to launch public facing web application into the AWS cloud. Okay. The architecture consists of Amazon EC2 with VPC behind the ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. Okay. So, what he is trying to set up as well, that you have a respective EC2 which is behind your respective ELB, Elastic Load Balancer. Okay. And a third party service is used for the respective DNS. Okay. The company solution architect must recommend a solution to detect and protect against large kind of scale of a DDoS attack. So, guys, what is actually a DDoS attack is all about? Anyone can help me out with that? What is actually a DDoS attack is? DDoS attack is that exactly bombarding with a huge number of requests. Correct, Priyanka? Fine. So this is what we have in the respective DDoS attack. Okay. Great, Vamsi. Fine. So what should be the collection requirement in this respective case? So Amazon Guard Duty, no. Inspector for vulnerability, no. AWS Shield and assign their Route 53 up in place, nope. Right. Okay. We have AWS Shield Advanced. So I will be just putting up my AWS Shield here. That will be protecting the respective elastic load balancer, and behind the elastic load balancer is my respective EC2. So this is going to be my respective approach in this respective case. Okay, that's the one. Correct. Okay. So this is, guys, going to be our respective case. Fine. Perfect. Now let's see it up. Fine. So now let's proceed further with it. The next question. This is, guys, the next question, everyone. So please look into it up in place. But the DNS is from some other company, right? It says that it's nothing with the in here. It says that the third party DNS service you have in place. So it's not our respective responsibility. So why should we protect it? It's some third party. It's not the AWS one. Whatever the components we have in our own hand, we will protect that, right? Okay, we have the servers, we have the ELB, and we have the AWS Shield. We will use it up in place. Third party is there, so they will take care of it. Okay. Okay, man. So this is the 10th question, everyone. Please look into it. Okay, guys. So yeah, let's go and let's discuss it up. What the question says. Okay. The question says that a company runs highly available image processing application on Amazon EC2 instance in a single VPC. Okay. The EC2 instance run across several subnets across multiple availability zones. Okay. The EC2 instance do not communicate with each other, right? Okay, fine. So they are not communicating with each other up in place. Just a minute, let me just grab my pen. Okay, fine, right? So EC2 instance in several subnets across multiple availability zone. The EC2 instances does not communicate with each other. However, the EC2 instance download the image from the Amazon S3 and upload the image to the S3 through a NAT gateway. The company is considered about data transfer charges. What is the most cost effective way for the company to avoid regional data transfer charge? What do you say? Okay. The first is NAT gateway in each availability zone. Man, that is going to be expensive, I would say. NAT gateway, first thing, the problem with the NAT gateway is that it using up the public internet. Okay, it means your traffic packets are leaving the AWS infrastructure. That's a big problem. That another disadvantage with the NAT gateway is that it creates an elastic IP, and that is chargeable. It means the more NAT gateway you create, the more elastic IP you have in place. Okay, and till the time they are there, you are just paying a price for that, right? So this is not the good option because NAT gateway create elastic IP and that's chargeable. Fine. So if you create in each availability zone, you have a big price to pay. Replace the NAT gateway with a NAT instance. Absolutely not. Foolish idea. NAT gateway is really a big problem, right? It's a server where you have configured something, certain options, certain AMI you have selected up in place, that you make it a NAT instance, which technically we nowadays would not use it because a lot of problems are there. You have to patch it, manage it, maintain it. Instead of that, it's far easier to go and use a NAT gateway, right? Okay, so it doesn't make why you should replace it with the NAT instance. It will overcomplicate the problem and again increase the cost, right? And maintenance cost would be there up in place, right? Okay, because NAT gateways are responsibility. I will go and create a NAT instance, that is my responsibility, that I have to manage it up in place, patch it, update it. But NAT gateway is a responsibility of the AWS. I'm just using it to configure things. Okay, deploy gateway VPC endpoint. Remember it up. EC2 instance. So my respective here, what have I have my respective EC2 that's want to communicate my respective S3. First thing is that using up the endpoint, this is secure. Another thing is that it's free of cost. The VPC endpoint is absolutely free of cost. It's private. It provides private connection and it's free. It provides cost-free connectivity between your VPC and your respective Amazon S3, right? Without uh, using up the actual internet. Okay. So this could be the answer. Let's keep it. Let's and provision and ease EC to a dedicated host up in place, right? So this is completely a different thing, right? A dedicated host, I would say, does not affect your respective EC3 or the S3 up in place, and this is more expensive as well. Okay, in the coming questions, we'll talk about this as well. Okay, dedicated host one. Okay, so this is also not the one here we have. So VPC endpoint. So got the point. VPC endpoint on one hand provides secure communication between resources, especially the S3. Fine. So if you want to connect to your respective S3 securely, endpoint is the option you can go for, and this is absolutely free of cost, right? So this is the you are not paying a single price. So this is the one you have in place. Okay. So guys, the correct answer is going to be your respective C. Now everyone, this is the next question. Everyone, please look into it. The question says that a company has an Amazon S3 bucket then contain critical data. Okay. The company must protect the data from accidental deletion. Fine. Okay. So it should protect it from accidental deletion up in place. Which combination of step should the architect, use it up to make the respective requirement up in place? So first option is enable up the versioning. Enable up the versioning protects you from accidental deletion, I would say that, right? uh, what normally in the S3 bucket, what actually happens up in places that you do not have a recycle bin man there. Fine. When you enable up the versioning, it's kind of sort of creates up a recycle bin. Okay. Where if someone even tried to delete something, it will be going it up to the respective that recycle bin up in place, and you can easily undo it. Okay. So this could be the one. MFA delete one is another option you have here. Okay. MFA delete means that if you want to delete something, enter that particular 6-digit code in your respective Google Authenticator, right? So that's the another one you have. Okay. Then you have this third one, which said up in place, create a bucket policy on the respective S3 bucket. Bucket policy is for controlling the access, man. Here by itself, they are not talking about any kind of control access. They are talking about they want to protect the data. Okay, fine. So let's suppose, for example, what if the admin in itself has become an insider threat? Admin has full control. He goes up there and just doing anything. Fine. So in that particular case, the policy part will completely fail. The policy part only works in that particular situation where, let's suppose, there is kind of a junior I have in place, J1, and I have attached a particular policy that he will not be able to delete something. So he will not delete it. But what about the Amit, the admin? Amit is the admin and he has full control over the bucket. What if Amit becomes not happy with the management? He becomes an insider threat. In that particular case, he has full control. He can go to the bucket and destroy the data. Correct? So policy, he can easily bypass this particular problem, right? Even if the versioning is enabled in this case, what can happen up? If you delete the file, it goes to kind of a temporary recycle bin, which can again be, you can extract it back. Fine. So this is not the one. Default encryption. No, it has encryption will protect you from unauthorized access, but it will not be protecting you from any kind of a deletion up in place. Okay, that's the thing. And here it says that create a lifecycle policy of the object of the object in the S3 bucket. No lifecycle policy. We are not talking about the lifecycle policy. We are talking about protection up in this respective case. Okay. So this is what we have in this respective case. Correct. So MFA delete. So if I just give you an idea about what an MFA really does, is that first of all, you can only enable it through a CLI. So CLI stands for command line interface. It means that if you want to perform any kind of operation, guys, in that respective case, you have to write up a piece of a code. Like normally in the Windows, what we do is that we just, if let's suppose, for example, I want to create a folder, I just go there, click some button up in place, a folder gets created, right? But in the Linux part, let's suppose, for example, I want to create something. So I will write up a particular, I want to create a particular folder. I will write up a particular command, which is called by the name of an mkdir, make directory, and the name of the file, the name of the folder, okay, or the directory. Fine. So using up the CLI, and down what happened up in place once you have enabled it, then let's suppose, for example, you have a particular file, okay, FL file. You want to delete this respective file, so you have to MFA, right? I hope at some point in time you have used up your Google Authenticator or the Microsoft Authenticator. In that particular case, what actually happens up, when you're logging in, you open up the application, the app, and there you have this risk code which is there for 60 seconds. You just enter it up before it get expired, and after it expired, a new code get created and provided to you. Same logic apply here as well. In the MFA delete, you open up the Google Authenticator, just enter up the code, 6-digit code, which is there for 60 seconds, and if it's correct, you will be able to delete it. If not, you will not be. Okay, so this is the respective case we have. So let's see, is it what the correct answer is? So we have this one in place, enable versioning up in place. Fine, that's the thing. Okay, so and this is also the one I just forgot to underline it up in place, highlight it. So this is the one we have. Okay.